in experiment part, there are two experiments. The first experiment is Mendel is crossing this plant with this plant, and this is a cross fertilization. This plant in self-fertilization always produce green color pods, and this plant in self-fertilization always produce yellow color pods, but their cross-fertilization resulted green color pods. Mendel took these seeds and the plant coming from these seeds was again cross-fertilized. There were 3 green pods and 1 yellow pod. Now the two observations from these two experiments were all F1 pods color are green, and in the second experiment in F2 pods color ratios between green and yellow are 3:1. These are the two different observations coming from two different experiments. And this is the time when the genes, chromosomes, alleles, gametes, and these things were not discovered. So Mendel went back to mathematics. Mendel supposed that if the green color is controlled by one factor and the same factor is controlling the yellow pod color, then in F1 generation, either the pod's color will be green or yellow. But that was not the experimental result. In experiment, always the pod color were green. So this model is not explaining the experimental observation, the first experimental observation. The second scenario may be the factor which is controlling for the green pod color may be different from the factor which is controlling yellow pod color, and that will be B. The two may be completely independent, two different independent factors. In this case, the chances are to get either green or yellow pods color, which was not the case because in F1 generation all the pods color were green. So this model was unable to explain the experimental observation. Then Mendel presented or supposed this scenario where each of the pod color either green or yellow, that is controlled by a pair of factors, and when they are coming for pollination, only one from those factors is coming for pollinating, and in the offspring the double number is restored, but the color will be one which is dominant and the other color will be recessive. The factor will be there, it will not express itself. Now it's explaining the first experiment where all the pods color were green, but in the second experiment there was 3:1 ratio. So let's take these pods color seeds and grow them and do a cross fertilization between them with the idea that during the pollination these factors are segregating and they are separated from each other, they are not affecting each other, and also from this plant, and then combine them and then see what happens. So this plant, and this plant will be green, and this plant will be yellow if this A is dominant over this one. So this explains the second observation of model where Mendel, which was like 3:1. So based on this model, that if there is two factors controlling one trait in the parents, and during pollination one of such factors is coming and then they are segregating in this stage, and then they combine during the pollination and restore the double number of those factors. And then during the two generation, in the P2, during the gametes formation, these factors are again separated from each other. Then this model explains the experimental observation which were coming from the Mendel's experiments, two experiments which I earlier discussed. Based on these experiments and then the mathematical explanation of those experiments, Mendel proposed the statement of law of segregation, which states that each inherited trait is determined by a pair of factors, one from each parent. Now these are the pair of factors in the parents, but during the gamete formation, one is coming from each parent, one from here and one from here. These factors segregate during the formation of reproductive cells, and during the reproduction, these factors in the parents, they are there in pair, but during the gamete formation or during reproduction, they are separated from each other, so that each gamete contains only one factor for each trait. Upon fertilization of this one, or this one, of this one and this one, or any other combination, the offspring inherits one factor from each parent, restoring the pairs. So that was the statement of the Mendel law of segregation.